Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Cabaret.
Okay.
It's nice to see you. This is the first live music program, I believe, in 2 years, a little over 2 years since the pandemic hit. So people are enjoying being able to come back together. I see that some of you are wearing masks, so thank you for that. We'll consider this a Broadway show, and that is one of the requirements. We don't require, but we suggest. So today starts our 20th Cabaret Festival. It's a little bit different, but certainly the level of talent is, it's just incomparable. We have such great performers, award winners for the whole weekend. So we have today our conversations on Cabaret, and we have this evening a program at 7:30 and tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So we hope that you can come and take advantage of these free programs. We want to thank the library, who has been our partner for many, many years, and our support that have supported all of our programs and given us this beautiful space to work in. I'm the executive director of Artists in Partnership, but Artists in Partnership would not be if it were not for the founding executive director, who came into town this week like a little tornado and is here today to orchestrate the conversations on Cabaret. So please give a nice warm re-welcome to Miss Susan James.
Johanna, can you make sure that's on?
Which one's that? That's good.
Thank you, guys. Yes, Johanna told you all about AIP, obviously. I asked her and she said, no, I'm just going to introduce you. So that's great. I don't have to say so much. I'm just really proud of the work that we've done over the past 20 years, really, in Cabaret, 22 years with AIP. And as she mentioned, this is our first back in the room in person. We did a Zoom last year, which hopefully some of you got to see. I'm excited by this group of people. I have to say something about Barry Kleinbort, who's in your program, who was scheduled to be with us, but he has COVID. He's feeling fine, doing well, no symptoms, but didn't want a chance, involving anyone else. So he just won a Bistro Award in Monday, and he couldn't accept the award in person because of it. So it's a tough time for everybody, I think, But in addition now, I'll introduce these people and we'll ask them to come out, right? David Gaines is our pianist for today. David? They can't hear me in there. Okay, David Gaines. You want to come? Thank you, David. David's going to be, he's the musician, magician. We have with us also Claudine Cassan, Claudine, and HECHTER UBARRY. All of their notes, by the way, are in the program, so you don't have to hear me say them. Jono Amarnelli, did I say that? Jono.
Yes, yes.
And he's going to be playing for us as well. And Aaron Lee Battle. So we've got the whole group. Okay, I'm going to go over. Okay. We have mics which we can pass around. Hopefully you can. Theater and cabaret clubs and all kinds of film and stuff. So we're going to talk about it. First, I'm going to just talk to them a little about their background, and then we'll get them to sing a lot. So that's the great part of this conversation. People want to hear you sing. So, so we'll start out with Aaron. Tell us a little bit about how you kind of came to Cabaret. Why does Cabaret speak to you versus anything else?
Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. Well, someone told me to put down that knitting, that book and that broom. It's time for the music to play. No, seriously. I came to New York actually in 1984, and I didn't know anything about cabaret either. I was one of those people who came here as an actor, musical theater from school, thinking that I was going to be a star. And you know, when you find out differently, that's not going to happen. So I actually had to find work, and I didn't have any skills either. You know, when you, the funny thing is I have a minor in biology and a BFA in theater, and it does nothing for anybody. So I had to find out where I was going to work, what I was going to do, and try to live in New York City. And someone told me about a piano bar down in the village called the Five Oaks. The Five Oaks was downstairs. It really was that kind of speakeasy kind of feel downstairs, and there was a wonderful piano player there named Marie Blake who played, and a young man, Stephen Lowenthal, and people just got up and sang. It was full of celebrities and all kinds of people, and that's where I heard about cabaret and what people were doing cabaret. And so I could sing, so I did my first show in a club that's closed, and the name I don't even remember. It was up on Columbus Avenue. But so that started me off the cabaret and meeting people who were doing cabaret, and here I am.
Very good. Thanks, Aaron. Okay, Claudine.
All right, I'm gonna borrow this mic. Yep. Good stretch, you got it?
All right, maybe not quite.
Maybe I'm gonna take yours. Okay, so when I grew up in New York, and I think the solo voice was always the voice that I was most attracted to, but I did a lot of theater. I have just a BA in theater, but not a BFA, but my husband is a BFA, but I have a BA in theater, and I absolutely loved the stage, but I really absolutely loved cabaret. And when I was very young, many years ago, not too many, I did a lot of what we call open mics, like Aaron's talking about, which is tough. But I also, I had a very close friend whose name is Ron Abel, and Ron and I used to hit spots together. And then we started playing a lot of clubs that some of them aren't there anymore, but some still are. The Duplex is still there, a couple others. But that was, I just found that was my home. That was what I liked. I liked theater much, but I liked delving into roles, but I liked it. And then I reached a point in my life where I decided, since I was a mother, I decided I wanted to go to my second love, which was education. So I became a teacher, and then I became an assistant principal, and for a while principal. And about 10, and I was still singing all this stuff, but about 10 years ago, I met David Gaines over there, and I met him through a mutual friend, and we started looking at material together, and he introduced me to Barry Kleinbort, and we started developing cabaret in a very different way than I was used to. It wasn't 16 songs that you knew, but it was songs that were built in a story. And that became, I just loved it. I loved telling stories. And yeah, so that's what I want to do. That's like, as a third act in my life, that is the best.
And we'll talk more about cabaret in terms of storytelling along the way. David, since Claudine mentioned you, can you talk about how you got into accompanying cabaret artists, or what your background is?
I don't know if this is on. Yep. Like a lot of pianists,
Can you speak up, please?
yeah, I don't think this mic is on.
It's on.
It is? Okay.
Yes, but it's just a mask.
Is that better?
Yeah.
So, like a lot of pianists, I started out I did a lot of playing auditions, Broadway, off Broadway. I was a rehearsal pianist. You know, I did some music direction, did some off Broadway stuff. I never did a Broadway show. And I was friends with Alex Rybeck. I think that might have been my entree. And so sometimes Alex couldn't do a gig, and so I would fill in for him. And so I did. So I played quite a bit for Jeff Harner. This is going back into the late 90s. And then actually through Jeff, I did a show with Jeff and Katie Sullivan. And then that was where I met Barry Kleinbort. So Barry is sort of like the common thread here. And so I think that was sort of how I got into it. Yeah.
And Jono, you want to, as a musician and background in
Sure. Hey, good afternoon. I feel very close to David right now because we're usually at the cockpit of the piano, ready to work. We're not talking, so we're very exposed and naked right now. But I did start life more of a court jester in musical theater, so cabaret was always a natural fit, performing and playing the piano. In some of the more madcap off-Broadway shows in the 90s, like When Pigs Fly or Whoop-De-Doo. And these were shows that kind of had a lineage literally back to vaudeville, because the older writers hung out with the guys who were in their 70s, who trained with the guys who were in their 70s. So it's a legacy of New York wackiness. But then I went corporate and played on Beauty and the Beast on Broadway and became a Disney employee. So you decide where your heart is and what you play. I play a lot of auditions, and there is a beautiful family and an informality to, I got to play for Patti LuPone because Dick Gallagher was not free. So, you know, if a pianist says, take my star, and I was a kid at the time, you luck out like that. And if you're good, which we are, so we survived a plague. There's no modesty. So and your love is there, then you and you want to express yourself through, I was going to say American popular song, but international popular song. Amazing to learn what's represented here today. But so I've always been at the piano, but a little bit of an actor, but also an academic, and loving anything that kind of feels a little vaudeville, no matter how smart it is.
What are you trying to say?
Yeah, well, for my heart, I get to play for some serious people, doing serious, you know, that's sort of takes the temperature of me as far as loves and loving the clubs and loving that are now gone. I'm 51, but I was a kid in my 20s in New York City hanging out in those places. And I'm very grateful to you for all of this. This is, I know 100 friends who would love to be here right now. So I'm glad you're all here.
I've always been fascinated by what's behind everything, you know, to really learn, you know, you go to a cabaret show and you enjoy it, but it's like, how did it get put together? Who, you know, how did the people get there? It's just kind of my curiosity about life, I guess. And now I'm going to introduce Hector, because perhaps you will grace us with a song and explain a little about how you gravitated towards cabaret.
I started out in Harlem. I was living in the projects, and I used to sing doo-wop. I formed my own group. And then later on, I discovered that there was a thing called Broadway. And then I said, well, I think I could do that. And then I started doing cabaret shows. And I found that I enjoyed it so much. I can communicate with the audience one-on-one. Whereas on the Broadway stage, it's all character work and everything. But I love the feedback. And cabaret now is my life. So I'd like to sing a song for you now.
Oh, good.
And if I can get to the microphone over there.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say very quickly, while Hector gets to the microphone, is that we're going to be name dropping up here. I apologize for our name dropping because I'm sure you don't know half the people we're talking about, but we'll try and explain some of them. But a lot of it's talent, that's what the community is and how we actually work with each other and work with so many different people in the cabaret world.
The one thing I have found in doing these festivals is the generosity of all of you. You love what you're doing, you love sharing it with everyone, and that's very special gift. Okay.
Anyway, I was preparing a cabaret show, and I had this director who was writing this thing for me. His name was Manuel Martin. He was a Cuban director. He spoke mainly in Spanish. And he says, Hector, what you need is something very Americano. Something with a little twist. Oh, conductor, es este Chattanooga choo-choo. Tren especial, ferrocarril tropical. Haga el favor de recogerme mi boleto. Voy a partir y ya me quiero subir. El carro Pullman tiene todo lo que puedas desear. Muy buena comida, camas para descansar. Tiene su portero que es muy salamero, que como de propina le dan buen dinero. Por la ventanilla cuando voy a mirar todos los pueblitos que se ven al pasar. Gente que mirando solo está pensando que muy pronto es hora de llegar. There's gonna be a certain party at the station. Lovely lace. I used to call Bunny Face. She's gonna cry until I tell her that I'm never wrong. So Chattanooga choo-choo, won't you choo-choo me home? On aboard. Chattanooga choo-choo, won't you choo-choo me home?
I'm really talking about the selection of songs, what makes you gravitate towards a particular song. Claudine, since Hector did something in Spanish, Claudine, we've got an international cast here, and maybe you could do one of the songs and explain a little bit about
Sure.
the French process.
This next song, it comes from a piece that's sort of two-parter. It's, I call it Hey Frenchy. It has to do with my back and forth with the French language because my father and I had problems with each other because I wouldn't speak French. But the first part is situated in a very special place, and I'll go over there and explain it.
I don't speak any other languages. Just putting it out.
Okay, so when I was a kid, my aunt, in French, my tata, kept a record player and a short stack of LPs, French LPs, in her pantry. Now, one album in particular caught my eye, pata chou, which literally means cream puff pastry. Now, pata chou struck a marching pose on this album cover right in front of the French tricolor, red, white, and blue, and she was formidable, and she certainly was not a cream puff. In fact, she took her name from the Paris pastry shop that she turned into a nightclub, where she took stage nightly with a pair of scissors, and I was hoping I'd find one, that she would use to lop off gentlemen's neckties. Snip, snip. Now, Pata Chou sang a fat cat song about a man called Jean, a sort of Parisian magnate. The tune was already popular in the States when she sang it in Carnegie Hall. I had whole chunks of that Carnegie Hall album memorized, songs and patter. I put on my crisp Catholic school white blouse, my dark pleated skirt, struck her marching pose, comme ça, et voila, I was attaché, snip, snip. Just got back from Paris, France. All they do is sing and dance. All they've got there is romance. What a tragedy. Every boulevard has lovers. Everyone else in a trance. The poor people of Paris. No, arrête. Stop. Merci. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You all know that song. We call it in French, La Galante et de pauvres gens. But you call it in America, the poor people of Paris. And I think it is much better for me to tell you the truth. You know, that song has nothing to do with the poor people of Paris. It is the story of one poor fellow of Paris, just one, called Jean. And he's a poor fellow because he gets everything he wants in life except love. And believe me, without love, there was nothing at all. There were times when Jean was wealthy. You know, he dressed like a million, slept only in silk, danced all night long, and drank the best champagne. And people bowed very low to him. But one day, his luck changed, and from his prison cell, Johnny sings his lamento and says, listen to me, good people, and believe me, it is much better to have a woman around your neck than rope, because without love, we are nothing at all. Sans amour, on n'a rien du tout. Est-ce qu'on est rien qu'un instant, la volante de pauvres gens que les femmes n'aiment pas, mais n'oubliez pas, dans la vie, il n'y a qu'une orale, qu'on soit riche ou sans un sou, sans amour, on ne rien du tout. Pour gagner les picaillons, il fut un méchant daron, on le saluait bien bas, mais n'oubliez pas, un jour on fait la pirouette, mais derrière les verrous, croyez-moi, on n'a rien du tout, on n'a rien du tout. Est-ce qu'on est les galantes? Soyez fiers de vos 20 ans, on ne les a qu'une fois, et n'oubliez pas, plutôt qu'une grelette, évolue pas à son coup, sans amour, on n'a rien du tout. Et voilà, mes braves gens, la volante du pauvre Jean, qui vous dit en vous quittant, aimez-vous. Pam, padam, padam, pam.
Now, Claudine, didn't you just win an award for this show?
Yes, we won a collaborative award. I think it's the first time this has been done with the Bistro Awards, but I think, coming from theater, I think it's about time. It was a collaborative award for director Barry Kleinbort. Hi, Barry, I think he's watching right now. For director Barry Kleinbort, David Gaines, and myself. It's called the Bistro Award, and it was for achievement in autobiographical show. So it was a big story. Thanks.
And then, now you are doing that show tomorrow in New York City.
At 7 p.m. at Don't Tell Mama on West 46th Street.
Okay, Don't Tell Mama, it's at 7 p.m. Tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's the mother of all clubs, so.
Right. Sydney Meyer has been with us a number of times, a great guy. Okay, and Aaron, you are going to do a show tomorrow for us at 2 o'clock.
Yes.
And so would you grace us with a song, maybe? It doesn't have to be from the show, just something you'd like to do.
Of course I will. I will.
Okay.
So my show tomorrow is called Gentlemen Jazz, and A lot of my influences actually come from the jazz world, specifically Billy Eckstine and Mr. Johnny Hartman and Nat King Cole, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, all of those folks who did a lot of work with jazz and the American Songbook. So let's sing something that they didn't. Well, they did it too, but it's not in my show.
Yeah, come in. Come in. Yeah.
You can make a little noise if you want.
Yeah.
Just make sure we know you're playing. I'm gonna love you like nobody's loved you. Come rain or come shine. High as a mountain and deep as a river. Come rain or come shine. I bet when you met me, it was just one of those things. But don't ever bet me, 'cause I'm gonna be true if you let me. You're gonna love me like nobody's loved me. Come rain or come shine. Happy together, oh, happy together, and won't it be fine? Days may be cloudy or sunny. You're in or you're out of the money. But I'm with you always. I'm with you, rain or shine. I'm gonna love you like nobody's loved you. Come rain or come shine. Happy together, oh, happy together, and won't it be fine? Days may be cloudy or sunny. We're in or we're out of the money. But I'm with you always. I'm with you, rain or shine. I'm with you, rain or shine. I'm with you, rain or Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aaron. You can, well, you'll hear more of Aaron during the program here, but you can reach him tomorrow at 2 o'clock, so come back for that. The thing I feel about my own thing in terms of cabaret is the ability to, as you were mentioning, instead of a character from a theater piece, to be able to actually transform it and bring your own self to it. And I always have a story that one of the girls that Barry had brought to a previous cabaret, she was a young mother and had a premature child. And so she couldn't hold the child. It was in one of the NICU for quite a long time. I think it was like a pound and something. It was very tiny. So she would go every day and sing to the child. And she said songs took on a whole new feeling for her. And she introduced the song that she was about to sing, which was, and again, it took on a whole new realm for us. It was,
I have dreamed.
Huh?
I have dreamed.
That's it. I have dreamed, thank you. David was there. I have dreamed that your arms are lovely. I have dreamed and enjoyed the view. You know, in these dreams, I've loved you so that by now, I think I know what it's like to be loved by you. I will love being loved by you. Now, we were in tears, she was in tears. It was a beautiful moment, and what we realized is that any song can take on a whole new context and meaning in terms of how the performer, the artist, makes it authentic within themselves and their own experience, right?
Exactly, and I think it's important for people to understand that that's exactly what cabaret does. It's not really always about how well you sing. It's about like how you tell a story, how you relate to the people in the audience, and where it comes from. And to, as you said, bring that into a song and find those songs that actually help you bring some life experience that you had to the people, and there's always going to be somebody else who relates to it. So I think it's always wonderful to have that.
It's I often say, "Sing the truth."
Yes.
Is a very common expression, and I love the Yip Harburg quote that said, "Words make you think a thought. Music makes you feel a feeling. A song makes you feel a thought." And it's just so simple but so profound, I think, Now you see these artists, and they're all very different, and their selection of material is very different because it's what speaks to you. Now, defining your personality as a singer and becoming what you sing. Hector, you had mentioned Gypsy and Myself.
Oh, yes.
Would you like to do that for us, or talk
yes.
a little about it?
I've been in the business, I'm gonna age myself. I did my first Broadway show in 1965. Whoa. Yes. I'm older than I look, which has been a problem because they always want me to play younger. Anyway, Gypsy in My Soul. I've done so many things in my career. I've done movies, television, I've traveled the world. Australia, I was there for 2 months doing a film. The Philippines, I did 2 films in Germany. So I've been traveling a lot. And Gypsy in My Soul sort of resonates with me because it's the kind of life we as actors lead. So if I hope you'll understand when I say, I am a gypsy. I am fancy free and love to wander. It's just the gypsy in my soul. There's something calling me from way up yonder. It's just the gypsy in my soul. I've gotta give vent to my emotions. I'm only content having my way. There is no other life of which I'm fonder. It's just the gypsy in my soul. No cares, no strings. My heart has wings. If I am fancy free and love to wander, it's just the gypsy in my soul. It's just the gypsy in my soul. It's just a gypsy in my soul. No cares, no strings. My heart has wings. If I am fancy free and love to wander, it's just a gypsy in my soul. No cares, no strings. My heart has wings. It's just a gypsy
Did you want to talk a little about your
Yeah,
vocal
yeah,
thing?
yeah.
Claudine, this is an example of how you make things work. And that's what's
Aw,
great
thank you
about
very
Cabaret.
much.
You got that?
Yeah, I just want to switch it over here. Yeah, we're good? Okay, all right, we're good, we're close. Anyway, I started singing again about 10 years ago in Cabaret and doing a lot of story shows and started moving on and enjoying it. And then all of a sudden I was having a little problem and I didn't know what it was because I'd been singing since I was a kid. I never stopped singing, so I was kind of put off by it. I was upset. So I went to 3 different voice teachers, and one of them was actually a speech pathologist, and they all gave me different things to do, and they all tried. And then finally, one said, "It's nothing you're doing." And he said, "I need you to go see this doctor," and I was scared out of my gourd. So I brought my husband with me, who's also an actor. And the doctor said, after 5 minutes, "You have essential vocal tremor." And he told me it was in various parts of my vocal mechanism. Now, I'd had a fairly wide range. I could sing several octaves, and I could hold long notes. And suddenly, if I would hold a note, it would go like that, or it would go like that. You know, so I had to learn more about lyrics, and that was a teaching thing. That was I had to learn more about the vocal mechanism. Actually, I'm very grateful to my current voice teacher, but I had to work and learn about lyric and the importance of lyric and how to get past the lyric, how to get past the music to the lyric. And it wasn't about the voice quality. And for me, since I've had a big voice, Since I've had a big voice, that was a hard thing to learn. And David has been so incredibly patient. But it's been a trip, it's been a journey, and I do plan to keep singing until I don't like the sound anymore.
It's interesting because Frank Sinatra, they said that when someone would present a new song to him, he didn't want to hear the music because he would be so seduced by it. He wanted to see the lyric, to see if the lyric is something that he could relate to and interpret well.
I just add to that. Sure. A couple of years ago, I took a workshop with Barry and with Penny Fuller, and Penny, I remember she yelled at me when I wanted to hear a song. She said, "I want you to try this song." And I said, "Well, let me hear it." And she said, "No, you have to go read the lyric. That's what you have to do first."
It's how you, Aaron, do you have a comment on what you're saying then?
The lyrics are important. It always helps you also with the experience. It helps you with how you feel, and it helps the audience. More often than not, I've had people come to me and say, "I've heard that song 100 times, but I've never heard the words." You know, so what I also try to do sometimes even with my arrangements or with working with my musical directors and arrangements is cut out all that flowery stuff and let the lyrics come through, and they can hear it. It's funny how you actually hear the flowery stuff already because it's already in your head, but you also now hear lyrics as well. So it's always important. The lyrics are really the very, very, very important part of the song.
And Barry was telling me about the Nat King Cole, that the song that you're about to sing, Aaron, was made famous by Nat King Cole. But it was a song that was referred to his valet, and the valet passed it on to Nat King Cole. And so, of course, it became a big hit. But the person who wrote it was truly a nature person who lived behind the Hollywood sign. And he never would cash his royalty checks because he was getting so much of this. He ate nuts and berries and fruits and vegetables, and that was it. And he was a true person, this autobiography, almost the song of his. And I remember this song because I saw the movie, was The Boy with the Green Hair. And I remember that. Do any of you have seen The Boy with the Green Hair?
Yeah.
Okay. With Dean Stockwell, I think, as a young boy. And this song was in that, and I think the gentleman, Eden Abes, who was the composer, he got $10,000, which at that time was quite a lot. So eventually, I guess he did cash that check, but.
When you?
But it's interesting, the serendipity of how things, get chosen or done.
Yeah, and even written. Again, it's about how someone's experience actually leads them to either write a poem, write a book, write a song, and some of these words also are actually put into music, and it's very lucky for us who sing to have those things happen. And also, again, as we were saying about lyric, I want to say a little bit about Nat King Cole. Actually, he too is one of my favorite singers out there, and I am very honored to be able to interpret some of the things that he's done, and also following his footsteps as a performer. There was a boy, a very strange, enchanted boy, and though he traveled very far, over land and sea, a little shy, no sad of eye, very wise was he. And then one magic day, he passed my way. And though we spoke of many things, fools and kings, this he said to me: the greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. Was a boy, a very strange enchanted boy, and though he traveled very far, over land and sea, a little shy, that old sad of eye, and very wise was he. But then one magic day, he passed my way, and though we spoke of many things, fools and kings, this he said to me: the greatest thing that you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return.
guys, that Aaron mentioned loving Nat King Cole and kind of listening to everything he did probably. What were the influences that you felt? I know Hector, may I say, and you can continue, was in Man of La Mancha for years, I think, with every star, but I think you mentioned somebody you liked.
You know, when I was growing up, Elvis Presley was my idol. I tried to imitate him. Every time I took a photograph, I would flip my lip up. I mean, that's who I was influenced by. I didn't know about anybody else. When you're living in Harlem in the 1950s, we didn't know anything about Broadway, opera, what was that? And my mother would give me $1 every day, every weekend, to go to the movies. They would play 3 movies, and there was always an Elvis Presley movie. And I would stay over and over again just to watch Elvis Presley. I wanted to be Elvis Presley. So that was my influence.
And now in Man of La Mancha.
In Man of La Mancha, I worked with Richard Kiley, the original, Raul Julia, Robert Goulet, John Cullum, and a host of other Quixotes. And they were all wonderful. And I had a career like for almost 30 years with Man of La Mancha. Every major revival on Broadway, I was there. So it made my career. It paid for my daughter's school tuition. So I'm very pleased that I had all these influences. I could sing everything. I used to sing The Witch Doctor. I don't know if you remember that. My friend, the witch doctor, he told me what to say. He said, ooh, ee, ooh, ah, ah, ting, tang, walla, walla, bing, bang. And you know, I taught my class in the 4th grade to sing that song, and my teacher said, you're getting an A. So yes, I have a lot of influences, and more to come. Richard Kiley, the original, of course.
Special.
Yes, Richard Kiley, we did so many revivals of Man of La Mancha. We were on the road for 3 years. I met my wife in '77, and I said to her, look, I'm going on a 3-year tour. And she says, I'll wait for you. When the tour ended in 1980, she says, okay, let's get married. I said, you waited this long? Let's do it.
Yeah, I guess the albums that I found in my aunt's pantry included people like Piaf and Panichou and Charles Trenet, Charles Aznavour, but they were idols. But my one album in that pantry, and I'd already seen Peter Pan like thrown in front of the TV set as a 5-year-old, I don't know, maybe less. So I'd already seen Peter Pan, but it was South Pacific, and so I was in love with Mary Martin. I was also in love with Piaf, like I said. And then later in life, I was doing a sort of a cocktail lounge thing. Remember cocktail lounges? I was doing a cocktail lounge thing. And this guy was there a lot, and he said he was a producer, a New York producer, and he would come up to me, he was a little well, she's doing. And he would come up to me and he'd go, you should listen to Mabel Mercer. You know, she taught Frank Sinatra his phrasing. And I thought, well, okay, I didn't know who Mabel Mercer was, so that's all right. And then I was back in New York. I graduated college. I was broke. I was walking past Lincoln Center, and I passed this club called Cleo's, and there were 2 signs in the window. One sign was waitress wanted, and the other sign was Mabel Mercer exclusive engagement. And I thought, well, okay, I'm gonna go see Mabel Mercer, and I'm gonna wait tables. And that's what I did for about 4.5 weeks. When she left, I left because I didn't like the club. But it was amazing. So those were my 3 idols, and I could also add Julie Wilson to that and Lena Horne. They were big idols. So, and strange.
Okay, it's interesting because Mabel Mercer used to sit in a big kind of throne chair, and she would just talk, yeah, and she would just sing. But you really heard lyrics. You really, even songs that you knew, but suddenly you listened and you went,
She sang a song from Carnival every night in her first set. It was called Mira. And when she sang that song, I believed the 75-year-old woman was a young girl. And that was amazing.
yeah, yeah. There was a show that I did that actually was where I had met my husband on a previous show, but we did it together, and of course that was the romance started. It was called Only a Woman. It was about Lucy Stone, and people do not know about Lucy Stone, but she was one of the major women suffragettes. She was she went on a lecture tour, anti-abolitionist, and so she ended up with Henry Blackwell, who was the famous Blackwell family, I think the first woman doctor and then minister and so forth. So it was a very large family and accomplished family. And so anyway, there's a song that I thought maybe I would share with you, because in terms of lyrics and storytelling, we talked about the idea of storytelling. This is Lucy Stone, who was on the lecture circuit, and he was kind of like her manager. He got her set up all over the country. And so she was traveling, and this is sort of her story. Here I am again, a busy traveler just passing through a different room with a different view, daydreaming, and strange what comes to mind, looking out of other people's windows, only ordinary things I find. A house beside a brook, a couple holding hands while they talk, and children hopscotching down the walk. It's funny, so funny, that this should catch my eye. Looking out of other people's windows, I can see the world move gently by. I come and go like the breeze out there, with the sun and the moon on my sleeve. I long to be free as I please out there, to live in the way I believe. Yet, when nights are cold, I often wonder how it would be to have somebody in love with me. I wonder, but will I ever know? I'm always looking out of other people's windows, watching other people's gardens grow. There you have it, Lucy Stone. Look her up, because she did not take her husband's name. They wrote up a contract that he would not own her or her children or her goods and so forth. So it was a very different 1850s sort of area, and quite something. She's not as well known because Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton wrote the women's suffragette movement, and they kind of put her to the background because they had arguments over the fact that she was out there fighting for black rights, and they said, well, women should get their rights first, and she said, listen, whoever we can get to get rights, so she was fighting for that as well. Okay, great. Claudine, would you like to say something?
Sure. We've had some Nat King Cole. We're gonna have a little bit more, and it's a mashup. So it's a mashup. Was totally. David said, "Oh, there's this song that Charles René wrote that he liked. It was called Boom, and it's just a lot of noise. It sounds a lot of nonsense noise, and we didn't know what to do with it. And this is an example. It's sort of in the way that Hector did Chattanooga Choo Choo. This is an example of how we can kind of blend the foreign language with the English. I'm gonna go to the second half of my show, which has to do with my father, Pierre. Pierre, of course, his name is Pierre. So Pierre came to America in 1950. He grew up in French Morocco, and he met my mother after the war when she visited Casablanca. Of all that gin joints and all the towns and all the world, no, he didn't say that. But he did guide her through the markets and ancient ruins of that fabled city. And under that hot, orange North African sky, they fell in love. I was walking along, minding my business, when out of an orange-colored sky, flash, bang, Alakazam, wonderful you came by. I was having a tune, drinking in sunshine, when out of an orange-colored field, flash, bang, Alakazam, I gotta look at you. One look, and I am timber. Watch for the flying flags, cause the ceiling fell in love. I went into a spin on a sort of a shaman. This is it, this is it. I was walking along, minding my business, when love came and hit me in the eye. Flash, bang, Alakazam, out of an orange-colored sky. Boom, comme notre cœur fait boum, tout avec lui du beau, est-ce l'amour qui s'éveille? Il chante avec plume, au rythme de ce boum, cœur qui boum à l'oreille. Tout a changé depuis hier, mais la rue a des yeux qui regardent aux fenêtres. Il y a des lilas, il y a des mains tendues sur la mer, le soleil va paraître. L'astre du jour fait tout avec lui du boum, quand notre cœur fait boum. Attends, mais la pendule fait tic-tac, tic-tic. Les oiseaux du lac piquent, glou, 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 font-tu des dindons, hein? Et la jolie cloche, tic-tac, toc, mais boum, quand notre cloche fait boum, tout avec lui du boum, grâce du boum, c'est l'orage. L'éclair qui lui fait boum, et le bon Dieu du boum, dans son portée de l'orage. Oh look, and I am timber, watch for the lightning flash, cause the ceiling
it's,
ça va comme ça.
when that
Okay.
happens, then it's just like,
There you
boom,
go.
right? There's a certain witchcraft in that, I would say, right? So, this is again a story about Sinatra, that his manager would have stacks of demos of songs that were presented, because everyone wanted Sinatra to do their music, obviously. And so he ended up saying, I'll listen to one. He said, just pick one, to his manager. And the one he picked was
Witchcraft. Those fingers in my hair, that slide, come here to stare, that strips my conscience bare, it's witchcraft. And I've got no defense for it, the heat is too intense for it. What good would common sense for it do? It's witchcraft, weird witchcraft. And although I know it's strictly taboo, when you arouse the need in me, my heart says yes indeed in me. Proceed with what you're leading me to. It's such an ancient pitch, but one I'd never switch, 'cause there's no nicer witch than you. It's witchcraft, wicked witchcraft. And although I know it's strictly taboo, when you arouse a need in me, my heart says yes indeed in me. Proceed with what you're leading me to. It's such an ancient pitch, but one I'd never switch, 'cause there's no nicer witch than you.
Thanks, that's great. I was wondering about the importance of the musical director. And the director, what's the difference? You know, do you research your songs? Who chooses them? How does the accompanist kind of support you? Would you like to talk about it?
I'll begin. It's funny because when we were talking about influences, I was hearing a lot of the pop stars or what was on the radio, and but then there are Broadway stars, and maybe you don't want to hear the cabaret show of a huge Broadway star. Maybe you don't, because they're different art forms. So the music director on a Broadway show or off-Broadway show, which we played, you have your score, but as far as shaping things, you defer to your, I always call the person star, you defer to your client because you are shaping their message, and that affects arrangements, that affects how you carry yourself in the rehearsal. If they've had a crappy day and they're feeling a certain energy on a certain song, which otherwise might have been charming, well, maybe they brought out a different color in it. And that's cabaret. Broadway, you don't do that. Here's the ink, here's the material. So there is a certain element of therapist is obnoxious, but you know, but you're seeing how you can best serve what message they're bringing that day, and that affects arrangements, that affects combining two songs, because if you have a singer who's always loved two songs, but and want to put them together, and you figure out a way to do that, that's thrilling, if it works. If it's forced, the audience knows it, like that combination was wonderful. That was charming. I was like, because there's a logic. But if you have someone who just wants to offer 12 songs they like, then I think the musical director has to step in and say, well, what's the journey? How can I help you with your message in a diplomatic way? And I think even the greatest stars know that. Barbra Streisand will listen to Marvin Hamlish during her concerts, not during Broadway, but so there's collaboration and seeing what you want to say and what key you want to put it in. This cat was out here transposing before y'all showed up, because that's what we do. It's like, no, you need to put this here, it sounds better. It's part of the gig. And it's a thrill, right?
And just to add to that, when you're working with a director like Barry Kleinbort, because Barry has been doing this for so long and has a sensibility that seems to jive with mine and usually with the clients that we work with, a lot of the work is taken care of. And Barry is also, besides being a director, he is also an arranger, which is some directors do this, some don't. But I think the other thing about working with a director is, and with a singer, is to feel that you're all working together and that you're all collaborating, you're all on the same page, just makes it so much easier and more fun, more pleasurable. But I was just also, just to piggyback on what Jonna was talking about in terms of influences, I was, for a bunch of years, I was working with Barry at a performing arts camp in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. And they had a week where it was just cabaret. And also Karen Mason and Chris Denny were also part of that faculty, as was Andrea Marcovici and Shelley Markham, who was her music director, pianist. And so to sort of watch those teams in action was certainly a big influence on me. And Andrea in particular has this gift for taking a song that we all know, not changing the tune, not changing any lyric, and yet bringing a completely new meaning to it. And I remember just one example, she did a Cole Porter show, and the climax of the show, she sang like, I would say like 7 or 8 songs in a row, but the songs together, put together, told the story of, it was a love affair from the beginning to the middle to the end. And one of the songs toward the end was this Cole Porter song called Let's Not Talk About Love, which was a song that Danny Kaye had sung. And it was a song, one of those sort of, it was a novelty song, and it got faster and faster. It was sort of like kind of like a tongue twister kind of song. When Andrea sang it, and she got faster and faster, it was because she was getting angrier and angrier. And all of a sudden, it made emotional sense in a way that that song never had to me. So when to see something like that, the light bulb kind of goes on, and you think, wow, this is what is possible in this art form. And for me, that's the thing that's the most thrilling, I think.
You find you do a lot of teaching of students, right, in Juilliard and so forth. Do you find that there's an interest in cabaret? Is there a leaning? What's happening with the young people coming in?
Yeah, I would say there is, and they might not be interested in like the cabaret as a venue, but they are interested in exploring songs and figuring out how a song, how they connect to a song. So yeah, I would say that there is, which is certainly hard.
In the past, we had a couple of young students who have won a competition from high school, and they are amazing what's going on. So cabaret is not that.
There's an irony because it seems like a formal antique supper club art form, and yet younger singers are bringing in what you could legitimately call performance art. So it's one of these great things where a few things are meeting, even more than Broadway. So that's where the innovation is. You define cabaret as, where is a cabaret? This is now a cabaret, because there's communication taking place.
It's the intimate, I think, conversation that you're able to have with an audience. And that's unlike a lot of other entertainments. I think Stephen Holden of the New York Times had said, you know, American Idol is this sports arena competition that happens in song. And so sometimes we forget that romantic cubbyhole that, you know, of the cabaret scene, and it's just, so we need to think
And
about
actually,
that.
singing with people and not at them.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
I find that those sorts of things that are happening now is that people are singing at you, and you're like, okay, and it's like this the whole time. As opposed to what these intimate journeys are about, is about connecting with everybody there and having you come back with us. So I think what we're talking about here too, and we are trying to get younger people into the cabaret world. And as Jonah said, it's really, there's an image of what cabaret is. It's the sparkles and the gowns and the tuxedos and the supper clubs and everybody spending a lot of money. And it's changing a little bit, and I'm very happy about that. It's actually, and it's going to help bring the younger people in so that cabaret does not die.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say about the pandemic, I think it became sort of the de rigueur to do video, but video is not cabaret. If I'm singing to a camera, I can't look at you, and I can't see your eyes, and you can't really see mine. So for me, cabaret is that immediate response. Yeah.
And so live performance, you think, is going to come back and will never be lost, because we need it. It's sort of like, you know, when film and television, they said, oh, television came, film will die. It doesn't, it just keeps reinventing itself in many ways. Aaron, would you have another number for us that we would like to do? There's one I'm not familiar with, I don't know which one you're gonna do.
I don't know which one I'm
Yeah,
gonna do.
but well, that's life and human heart. So-
Oh,
Oh, yeah? Or Lush, whichever you
Lush.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
It's a song by Billy Strayhorn, right?
Yes.
And then Duke Ellington?
I just didn't say either. You know, when I was growing up, we had my parents had the Columbia Life subscriptions. We had the love songs and the songs of the '60s and songs of the Motown and songs of R&B, and you know they came in these big boxes of records. I learned a lot of music from there. I actually did not. I never thought about being a performer because I grew up in a small steel mill town outside of Pittsburgh called Duquesne, and we grew up in the steel mills. I had soot on my face when I went to school. I mean, there was still those steam, you know, pipes blowing the whole time while we slept, I knew I didn't belong there because you were expected to go into the mill, and I didn't like dirt, so that wasn't going to happen. And so again, we're growing up. You know, I grew up in the late '60s, and we were supposed to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a media chief, and I was going to be a doctor. That was it. I want to be a doctor. That's why I have a minor in biology, because I started in pre-med, and so singing was not something that you did as a living. It was not. I knew nothing about that, and then I found theater, and that actually probably. And that almost pushed my mother over the edge. She said, "Can't you do it part-time?" And I'm like, no. So, but she finally liked it and got over it. Yeah, this song is a beautiful song written by Billy Strayhorn. And Duke Ellington, he was a protege of Duke Ellington's. He did a lot of work with Duke Ellington, and Duke actually really did give him credit for this song, where most people don't. It is Billy's song. Billy wrote this song, and it's probably a little bit autobiographical for him as well. I used to visit all the very gay places, those come-with-me places, where one relaxes on the axis of the wheel of life to get the feel of life from jazz and cocktails. girls I knew inside and solid gray faces with distinct gay traces that used to be where they could see where you'd been washed away by too many through the day. 12 o'clock down. Then you came along with your silent song to tempt me to madness. I thought for a while that your poignant smile was stitched with the sadness of a great love for me. Oh yes, I was wrong. Again, I was wrong. Life is lonely again, and only last year everything seemed so sure. Now life is awful again. A trough full of hearts could only be a A week in Paris leaves the mind of it. All I care is to smile in spite of it. I'll forget you, I will, while yet you are still burning inside my brain. Romance is mush, stifling those who strive. I'll live a lush life in some small dive, and there I'll be while I rot with the rest of those whose lives are lonely too.
I think it gets back to the Proverbs, a song makes you feel a thought. Barry wanted me to share with you the Carolyn Lee lyric, because we're talking about lyrics as a way with words. And apparently she was in a poker game or something with Julie Stein, and she had one of the names here right now, but
Sounds right.
yeah, but they told her, oh yeah, and Fred Ebb and Hal Hockaday, yeah. And they said, you know, give me a lyric. Julie Stein says, give me a lyric. I need, you know. So she came back the next, because we needed to set something to music, and she came back with this particular lyric, which was apparently her last lyric before she passed. So he asked me to just read this to you. It's called Killing Time. And one of the things, just before I read it, I think Cabaret, if you learn something about the performer, perhaps, during a show, or you learn something about yourself, or maybe you learn something about the world, and that's when it's really great, because it's revealing all of these lyrics, and the authenticity of the performer allows us to have a universality, too, at the same time. So this is Killing Time. Filling spaces, killing time. Making small talk, faking pleasure, killing time. Punching pillows, lunching late, and missing you. Kissing someone, missing you. Dealing aces, feeling old, matching socks, and hatching plans, and catching cold. Don't it slay you, knowing I'm spending nights? Or is it years? Dulling senses, lulling fears, chilling drinks, spilling tears, killing time. So it's interesting in terms of lyrics. And of course we have the Grand Masters, Stephen Sondheim. We haven't been talking about that.
Mention him. But he's scary to sing. I mean, most singers are really frightened of singing Sondheim. I've done some of it, but I haven't done a lot, and I'm actually trying to work on some things for Sondheim. And it was always, because he's very strict, and sometimes he won't give you a melody. You gotta know, you have to sing something anyway, because you have to, I don't know what I'm singing, but you actually really have to keep going. And if you mess up, you're done. You can't go back, you can't fake it, you're done. But yeah, it's his 100th birthday. Were you doing celebration for, or was it, or just?
Yeah, he just passed away
Just
recently,
passing.
you know.
And there's a lot of Sondheim being performed out there, and it's spectacular to listen to people try and do it and do it. And Into the Woods just happened in Encores, which was absolutely brilliant. If you got a chance to see it, and there's talk of it actually being moved to Broadway.
It's interesting because I saw a lot of his songs, his shows, the original shows, and I just never left the theater feeling fulfilled. You know, it's like, it wasn't like Rodgers and Hammerstein, and so you go singing, you know, and oh, you feel great, right? And I'd be left sort of, and I think I've investigated him more now, researched him more, and I so appreciate what he allows and what he brings to us, because it's that duality of life. It's like not, you know, they get married and they live happily ever after. It's just a sense of the reality of life, but the beauty, but the tragedy, it's just everything all rolled into one, you know? Like the famous thing that he said, do you enjoy being married? Well, I'm sorry, and I'm grateful.
Yes.
You know, it's like that's the epitome of it. Yes, Claudine, you had something.
Way back, I did a production in a regional theater, Little Night Music, and I was Petra, and things were going fine, but one night, she sings a song, there's a wink and a wiggle and a giggle in the grass, and I'll take the light, fantastic, and then and each chorus is words like that, very fast, but each chorus is different. And one night, I flipped the choruses. And I remember singing the verse thinking, what am I gonna sing now when I get to the chorus? And I managed it. I absolutely managed it. I just sort of flipped it all around and still got to the end of the song. But it was like I was sweating.
That feeling, right.
I will chime in. He's really our greatest craftsperson, you know, and he's a problem solver of creating songs within his shows. So so as far as them becoming cabaret songs, you have to just go to the pure sentiment. I mean, there's a gorgeous song we could all sing, "Nothing's Gonna Harm You, Not While I'm Around." And it's just saying, "I will protect you." In the show, it's a young psychopathic boy saying, "I'll kill anyone who comes near you." And that's beautiful, because that's what the show is saying. So here's this beautiful thought saying, you know, but the dexterity inside of it, if you take out that edge and that muscle, sometimes in cabaret, it declaws it. So that's why even, you know, any brilliant singer can do it, but it's in the context of bringing a Sondheim show song into a cabaret act has to be really well thought out, just because how he writes.
Yeah, it's perhaps David, you could I'll do a number of his, but he was remarkable in. Let me just sing This was interesting because I once did a cabaret show quite a while ago, not really prepared to do it. It was a good learning lesson. But in this particular song, my father was a great whistler. And again, I tried to find what I could relate to in the lyric. he was wonderful, and I still cannot whistle. I mean, I go, nothing, I don't know, nothing comes out. But, you know. Anyone can whistle, that's what they say, easy. Anyone can whistle, any old day, easy. It's all so simple. Relax, let go, let fly. So someone tell me, why can't I can dance a tango, I can read Greek, easy. I can slay a dragon any old week, easy. What's hard is simple. What's natural comes hard. Maybe you could show me how to let go, lower my guard, learn to be free. Maybe if you whistle for me. Someone had interviewed Stephen Sondheim and they asked him if that was his most autobiographical song. And he said no. He said, and yes, he said it was like he writes. I think any artist will write for the character, which he was very specific about. But you write through your own experience, your own understanding, your own feelings. So invariably, it's got to be somewhat autobiographical. So, okay. So who next? Yes. Okay. So the great thing about Cabaret is you can take any experienced country you can do, or make a theme of a composer's or your own autobiographical story. There's one.
This song, I used to take girls to Coney Island. And I was always a cowboy singer on the boardwalk. And I said, oh, I love that. I used to sit there and watch him twanging and singing a song. Well, I discovered this song. It was written by Willie Nelson. And so I'd like to sing it for you now. Crazy, crazy for feeling so lonely. I'm crazy, crazy for feeling so blue. I know you love me as long as you wanted. And then someday you leave me for somebody new. Worry, why do I let myself worry? Wondering, what in the world did I do? I'm loco. But thinking that my love could hold you. I'm crazy for crying, crazy for crying, and I'm crazy for loving you. Worry, why do I let myself worry? Wondering, what in the world did I do? I'm crazy for thinking that my love could cry, and I'm crazy for loving you. Crazy for trying, crazy for crying, and I'm crazy for loving you.
It's like we're all crazy about Cabaret, the American Songbook. And I have to say that I remember something that Barry had said at the previous festival, that this music is America's gift to the world. You travel around, you were saying you're a gypsy in my soul and you've been everywhere. You hear American music constantly. He said he was in Italy and he was taking a taxi and the taxi driver said, well, what do you do? And he said, well, I'm a composer. Oh, Cole Porter. You know? And he said, well, no, I'm not Cole Porter. And he proceeded to sing 10 Cole Porter songs. And he said, I don't think that would happen in America, right? In New York City, I don't know. But, and he said then he went to a French cabaret, and this, all the people were French, they weren't, you know, and the woman was going, oh, this is so much, and then she sings, and she starts singing, "It's the Saturday dance," and there it was, and everyone who were French knew all the lyrics in English. So, you know, it just shows you. Barry did a show in France and England, so you might want to talk about that and do something from it.
Okay, I'm gonna go over there and talk about it. I do need the mic lowered because I have to have both my hands.
Okay.
I will lower it.
You have to be able to see my mouth. For this song, you must see my mouth. So that's just.
It's not a COVID song.
It is pretty good.
No mask.
Maybe a little bit. Oh, we are good. I think we're good. All right. Can you see my mouth? Yeah. Okay. All right. So anyway, I go on in my show about my relationship with my dad, and basically he kept wanting me to take French, and he wanted me to take French in school, and that made sense to me because I thought this is a Barryism. With a name like Claudine, French would be a piece of gâteau, n'est-ce pas? So I did take French, and I didn't enjoy it in school because French was not formidable. The grammar was a real hassle. And then there was a summer, well, this comes from a show called Metropolitain by Barry Kleinbort. And it expresses what I experienced in France because when I got to France, my dad sent me when I was a teenager. When I got to France, I was so tongue-tied, I couldn't find or say the words I wanted to say. And my accent, well, I became the person I dreaded most, an American in Paris. I studied French in school. I did rather well. In fact, my teacher, Madame Cohen, said, "Très exceptionnel." But now that I am here and speaking les mots, I'm finding lots of things in French I simply do not know. I asked a man, "La bourse?" He stopped me with a look, and then he said one small thing, not in any book. The man said, he went. I said, "Pardonnez-moi, monsieur, how do I translate your..." He said, I said, "Merci, monsieur," he said. I checked Rosetta Stone, but they don't require you make a noise that sounds like air escaping from a tire. I searched through my LaRue, superlatives too, of course, but found no chapter showing how to snort like you're a horse. It's something that each Frenchman knows, from punk to parvenu. that know me come in this town, taught me how to do. They all go. That's right. Go up to an petite garçon, ask him in Castile. He'll go. He may kick you first, then he'll go. I asked the clerk if he knew the best way to get to the top of Montmartre. I asked the guide at the Petit Palais, what you call that building, Beaux-Arts? I told the waitress I'd like croque monsieur, but asked, could you leave off the ham? I asked a guy at the Montparnasse tour if he liked Jean-Claude Van Damme. I asked the barman who works at Balzar if he knew the rate of exchange. I asked a girl in the Gare Saint-Lazare if she thought a bagel was strange. I asked the desk clerk at my cheap hotel if he had a spray from Rouge. I asked a group at the Tower Eiffel if Trump was worse than George Bush. You can be metropolitan, aren't you Parisian? You can register happiness, also regret, voice your frustration each time you forget. Be relenting and strong. Say, I care when you're wrong. Tell me, how do I end this song? Thank you, Barry.
That's what they call a novelty song, right?
Yep.
Yep, lots of fun.
Every show, I believe every show has to have a frustration song, and that was mine.
Okay, before they do one last number, is there anything that anyone would like to ask or find out about, or we're open to questions? Anybody? No? That usually means either we satisfied every dream, or they're not even dealing with us.
Okay, I've got.
You're thinking about coming to see me tomorrow.
Okay,
I have a bunch of questions. First of all, do you all know one another from your performing lives? Have you run into one another? Well, you can start with that one. Take it from there. Do you? Yeah? Do you know?
I think we all know of each other, but I think this is our first actual meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did not know, other than David. I know David. I haven't met any of them until today.
I knew everybody's name because these are wonderful people. And then just backstage, like learning the Broadway credits, this is like, I'm a fan. I'm like, you were in that? That's cool. And you played at that club. We've all played at clubs that are now Starbucks.
Well, that's my next question.
So I feel honored to know the names and reputations of these people. I know Aaron is way more.
That was your next question.
Well, yeah, I was going to go back to that question also. You said, don't tell mama, and that was the top of the club. I remember back in the old days, when I was growing up, there were all of these different clubs down in the village that people went to. I was taken to on a date, and it was so wonderful. It was a jazz club. Whatever happened to those clubs? Where did they go? Did they all become Starbucks?
Well, yeah, either that, I'm gonna say rent, I don't know specifically what happened, but a lot of them, the Five Oaks that I mentioned earlier was one of those places where Marie Blake was, and everybody went there. You know, one night, Liza Minnelli, Shirley MacLaine, and all these people walking. I mean, there were a lot of celebrities that were coming to there. There's a duplex, which is still there as well, but the duplex was also, these were all clubs on Grove Street. And the duplex is kind of still on Grove Street, but they moved across the street bigger. And I think you're talking about, what's the jazz club? And I'm trying to think what it is, but it was down there too, right next door to. No, there's the Village Vanguard and the Village Gate that were down there, but there was a, Smalls is down there as well. But a lot, I think Smalls is still there.
Yeah.
But that was, the Blue Note's still there too.
It was Reno Sweeney.
Reno Sweeney is gone. Been gone a long time. Yeah, wonderful.
And that was a great club also.
Yeah, I know the Metropolitan Room, I think, is pushed out on rents.
Right,
Yeah.
yes. And that's happened, keeps happening with a lot of spaces that, and again, the pandemic closed a lot of places.
But this was back
before that, yeah. It was a lot more
It was
rental
back to the
things.
60s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I started the Five Oaks in '84, so, yeah.
There's a question back.
Yes.
Yeah, the origin of this kind of music hasn't been from Ella Fitzgerald on with a lot of the old music.
Yes, a lot of it. A lot of Ella, and they did these small rooms and small clubs. Lena Horne did the small rooms. Yeah. Peggy Lee, Rosemary Clooney, all did these small, intimate, Billie Holiday, intimate kind of spaces where the cabaret world started. And it's grown, it's different, but it's still, it was called the intimate supper club type of performing. That's where you can sit down and listen, eat and drink and listen to, some wonderful performances.
Okay, yes.
In the late 70s, when Soho was just starting up, there were a lot of clubs down there. The Ballroom was one that I loved. And when you talked about earlier, you talked about how a person interprets the words. Jane Oliver was my wonderful, and when she did Some Enchanted Evening, I mean, who would attempt to do that when Enzio Penzo, but she sang and gave it such feeling. I mean, you just melted listening to that. They were wonderful down there. I don't remember the names.
There were people like Alberta Hunter who did at the Cookery, who was one of those people down there as well. The fabulous Julie Wilson, who's the mother of Cabaret, as far as I'm concerned, was doing those kinds of rooms. Julie was an angel, a sweetheart, a great performer, and a very, very wonderful person. And those folks some of them are still around. Marilyn, that's getting ready for the rest. Marilyn May is out and about at 89, 88.
Yeah,
right
she's
now.
been with us twice before.
Marilyn's fantastic. And again, it was the rooms closed, and actually there was not a lot of interest, so there weren't a lot of money being made in these spaces. And a lot of the performers actually ended up traveling a lot. Luckily, they were able to leave New York and do different rooms and all over the country, all over the world. It's coming back. I'm knock on wood, but it's coming back.
Real estate was part of it. As Soho became more popular, the things changed because we used to pay $2 to sit and watch the show.
Right. The economics of it, And people used to have shows at 2 o'clock in the morning, and people would, go out. Because, there was a whole different feeling about entertainment then too. Yeah. And that's a question as to what's gonna happen in the future. I think we're longing after the pandemic, I think, to reconnect with each other. So I think it's going to grow. Do you all agree? Yeah. Okay, you wanna do one last number? Okay.
I had this song many years ago. I mean, I never showcased this song And then Barry Kleinbort, my director and writer, and Christopher Denny, my musical director. I said, "You're gonna do this song finally." I said, "Okay." Whether I'm right, whether I'm wrong, whether I find a place in this world or never belong, I gotta be me. I've gotta be me. What else can I be but what I am? I wanna live, not merely survive, and I won't give up this dream of life that keeps me alive. I gotta be me, I gotta be me. The dream that I see makes me what I am. That faraway prize, a world of success is waiting for me. If I hear the call, I will settle down, I'll settle for less, as long as there's half a chance that I can have it all. I'll go it alone, that's how it must be. I can't be right for somebody else if I'm not right for me. I gotta be free, I gotta be free, daring to try to do it or die. I gotta be me. That faraway prize, a world of success is waiting for me. If I hear the call, I will settle down, settle for less, as long as there's half a chance that I can have it all. I'll go it alone, that's how it must be. I can't be right for somebody else if I'm not right for me. I gotta be free, I've gotta be free, daring to try to do it or die. I've got to be me.
And Claudine, I know. Thank you, that was good.
Now, because the show is a story show, I'm gonna do some story before this song. You know, when I would get together with my dad, and I didn't speak French with him, but I would bring my French songs and I would ask him to translate things I didn't quite get. And when I would ask him to translate boom, well, he would just laugh. And because it's a funny song, and he told me that he heard it on the radio when he was a boy. He also told me it was a big deal having a radio in French Morocco during the war. And he wasn't allowed to bring kids home or tell them that there was a radio in the house, because the radio was used to get messages from the Allies. But the radio also brought swing and the zany rhymes of a popular entertainer, Charles Trenet. Trenet wrote Boom. It was called The Singing Fool, and he made people laugh. But Trenet is actually best remembered for a song that he wrote that was recorded 4,000 times. Bobby Darin's Beyond the Sea is the American pop version I listen to. But Trenet's La Mer, the sea, is a French tone poem. It's a meditation on a small moment in time. Waves dance and glisten along the shore. White clouds merge and nestle over an azure sea. Look near the pond at the thick, wet reeds. Look at the white birds and the rusty shacks. This wetland finds himself cradled by la mer. La mer qu'on voit danser le long des golfes clairs. Allez, reflets d'argent, la mer, tes reflets d'argent sous la pluie. La mer, au ciel d'été, qu'enfoncé par le temps. Avec tes sangs si purs, la mer, bergère d'azur affaiblie. Voyez, près des étangs, ces grands roseaux. Voyez, ces oiseaux blancs et ces maisons bleues. La mer les a bercés le long des golfes clairs. Et d'une chanson d'amour, la mer a bercé mon cœur pour la vie. La mer les a bercés le long des golfes clairs. Et d'une chanson d'amour, la mer a bercé mon cœur pour la vie.
It's wonderful, it's like you're held in that moment as long as you want to keep it, it's great.
David's arrangement, I think you should tell them about that.
Arrangement?
Yeah.
She said she wants you to
Yeah.
say something.
The only thing I'll say about it is when we were working on it, and Claudine mentioned tone poem, and I was thinking of some of the Impressionist composers, and there's this piece by Debussy called The Engulfed Cathedral. So the whole intro, the whole first section, the whole last section, I just stole it. So I can't take credit for any of that.
Very good. Okay, I don't know this song, so if you can, tell us a little about it.
Well, that's something we do too, we steal things. The good stuff.
I was saying to my fellow maestro, yeah, you can take credit for it. You played it, you made it, it's part of the world.
It's yours.
I love this.
Well, this song that I want to do is one of my favorite songs. I've done some theater as well. Unfortunately, not this show. The song is from the show Once on This Island, and it is a song that I feel actually speaks to who we are as humans, as people. when we see what's going on in the world, people being shot in grocery stores and fighting for women's rights and fighting for trans rights and fighting for human rights. This song talks to me and speaks to me along those lines about how we should be treating each other and how we have learned or should have learned from things in the past and how we should learn from our own mistakes as well as not make them again. The courage of a dreamer, the innocence of you, the failures and the foolishness that lead us to the truth, the hopes that make us happy, the hopes that don't come true, and all the things there ever was, I leave all to you. You are part of the human heart. You are part of those who took the journey and to manage to endure. Those who you have learned it from, and those you taught it to, the ones who came before you, the others yet to come, and those who you will teach it to, and those you learned it from. You are part of the human heart. You are part, and this is the gift I give. Through your love we'll live forever, forever, forever. You are part tonight, part of the human heart.
Wow. I would like to thank all of you and all of you for being here and listening to this. It's just so wonderful to have the ability, and thank you to the library for providing the venue and the funding to be able to bring these artists to you. And you don't even have to travel for it. It's really great. So any last things or questions or comments?
Susan, just remind everyone that we're having a little reception in the youth service room. We have
Yes.
some snacks and a little bit.
If you go across the hall,
Yep.
you can meet and greet those artists and kind of say hello and get to know each other and get some snacks, as you said. Thank you, Johanna. And tonight, Karen Mason at 7:30, and with Christopher Denny, because you had mentioned, is going to be accompanying her. So it's going to be Kendra and Ed and all that jazz. So it's going to be a great show. And then, of course, Aaron and John Ho are going to be tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So that you will actually see a whole cabaret performance. Right now, it's just been a kind of great conversation and sharing of songs. The cabaret performance is a whole in itself, so you want to hear that too. Okay, so thank you so much, and go across the hall and say hello, everybody.